Hello everyone, and thanks for joining today's live session. We're going to be talking a lot about proctoring and remote testing, so before we begin, let's provide just a little background. A proctored test is any exam where the test taker is monitored by a human being while they take their test to ensure that no cheating occurs. Many important college and professional certification exams are taken this way in live testing centers. Remote testing online is an option for some exams, but the current platforms are not adequately secure and are too easy to cheat for many crucial certifications and tests. At Proctor360, our goal is to bring secure proctored testing directly to the consumer, allowing them to take any exam, anywhere, at any time. We want to allow students to take exams from the location of their choice, making it more convenient for them and saving on cost in the process. So let's talk a little bit about problems with the current models, okay? Currently, some exams can be administered online using a laptop and the integrated webcam to monitor the student, while others must be taken at a live testing center. And there are millions of exams that are administered every year across both models, but there are problems with each of these. Testing at live centers requires a test taker to travel to an available center, and these are not always nearby. There are limited slots available for each exam, and this can create real burdens on scheduling the time to take a test at a live center. The test taker must take the test in an unfamiliar and sometimes uncomfortable environment because it's at a live center where they've never been before. There are usually limited options for testing centers within a geographic area, which can also make it difficult to schedule a test or to find one that's close enough to the student's home. The cost of operating a physical location for live testing is also pretty high because you have all of the costs that go along with a physical location, and this equates to financial challenges for the centers as well as for the students. And finally, for many major tests and certification exams, a live center is the only option. Remote testing is just not available for many of those. Online testing is more convenient for the test taker, but the current model is threatened by some pretty harsh realities. Studies have actually found that as many as 33% of all students admit to cheating on their online exams. Because of the limited view that's offered by a standard computer webcam, only 2.1% of cheaters have actually been caught in the act, according to these studies. The standard webcams are prone to blind spots because they're narrow field of view and because of the fact that they look in only one direction at the test taker. Anything that's behind the camera or out of its field of view could be used to help a test taker cheat the exam. There are actually many websites dedicated to publishing ways to help students circumvent this type of testing model and provide tips on how to cheat the system. And it's a model that uses decade-old technology and simply just doesn't collect enough monitoring input for many crucial exams to be allowed to be taken this way. That's why some of the most important tests for professional advancement and things like that can only be given at a live testing center currently. But those costs are high, and it creates real challenges for e-learners and online students as well. The good news for e-learning is that Proctor360 has developed a solution. 360-degree cameras have been on the market for a few years now, but they've never been adapted to use for remote testing. We've designed a headset with an integrated 360-degree webcam that will give remote proctors a complete view of the entire testing environment, no matter where an exam is taken. Our multi-view platform collects a lot of input from several angles. We get a 360-degree view from the headset, a front view from the computer's webcam, a screen capture from the browser, and any sounds from the microphone that is incorporated into the headset. Our proctors monitor the exam and are trained to recognize cheating behavior. With our system, all information is recorded and can be accessed later for auditing as well. Proctors are able to monitor up to 6 tests at a time with this platform, and it allows us to maintain a high number of users and be scalable. Now, any exam can be taken remotely and securely. This is an innovative solution to a very concrete problem in remote testing, and we currently have a provisional patent filing for the use of 360-degree cameras in remote testing. So as the industry goes this direction, they're going to have to go through Proctor360. Our founders represent a wealth of experience in the remote testing market. Ganga Bathula, our CEO, has more than 15 years of experience operating live testing centers and knows this industry very well. Don Kastner, our COO, was the former founder of Proctor.U, which is a current major player in the remote testing market in the United States. And Kranthi Bethula, our CTO, has a wealth of experience in product engineering and has been instrumental in designing the 360-degree testing cam that is an integral part of our testing platform. And the entire Proctor360 team is dedicated to making online testing more fair, more secure, and more accessible to e-learning students everywhere. So let's talk for a minute about our current progress. Proctor360 has already developed working prototypes of this product, and our current offering on Start Engine has already met its minimum goal to allow us to start manufacturing these headsets and get to market. Any additional investments up to our maximum goal will serve to help us produce more headsets more quickly and achieve faster growth. Take a look at our online public offering at startengine.com/Proctor360. Consider making an investment now. You're looking at a startup company that is ready to achieve revenue in the near term and still see the kind of success that comes in many multiples by investing in a company at a startup stage. You're attending this live session, so we know you recognize the value of the product in this multi-billion-dollar remote testing market. So now we're going to open up the rest of this live session for questions and answers from anyone who's listening. If you've got any questions, our founders are here, and we'd be happy to answer those as we chat a little bit more about the product and where we plan to take it. Okay, Kranthi, kick us off, man.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to be here. My name is Kranthi Bethula, CTO of Proctor360. On the line, we have our CEO, Ganga Bethula, our COO, Don Kastner, and our marketing advisor, Scott Crumpler. So today, we just wanted to talk about Proctor360 and how we're using advanced technology to prevent cheating in the education market. So specifically, we're going to be talking about online testing and how our product and our service fits into that market well. So recently, as you can see in the update here, it's we've been hailed as a top online proctoring service by Learning Light. So earlier in the presentation, you might have seen a lot of these large numbers that were posted: 42 billion and 10 billion by 2026. So this is the actual journal company that came out with those numbers, and they hailed us as a top online proctoring service. So it's really nice to be shown by the source of the market that we're going to be a game changer in it.
Yeah, and that's the word they use too. I mean, they're looking at Proctor360 as potentially changing everything about that market research they've done up to this point. You know, the $10 billion estimate for remote proctoring in the computer-based testing market is based on a market that doesn't have Proctor360 in it. So when they talk about us being a game changer, you're talking about capturing as a really substantial portion of that total computer-based testing market.
Yeah, it is pretty nice to hear from them. It's like I was saying, it's a great thing to be recognized from the source of the numbers. That way, you know that they have inside knowledge in exactly how how effective this company will be.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we were kind of trying to frame this week's webinar around how our technology is going to prevent cheating, and how it takes cheating prevention one giant leap forward now for remote testing. So I think one of the things that may not be clear to some people if they're not that familiar with online testing is just how vulnerable current remote testing platforms are to cheating behaviors, right?
Yeah. So currently, the system used is just a single webcam. So you can see how many blind spots would be available. Obviously, if someone walked into the room behind the laptop in the direction that the camera wasn't pointed, they would easily be able to put up cheating material or sign answers to the questions. So it really does leave a lot of space open, and it's easily vulnerable to that system. The solution we came up with was to kind of supplement that, and we're using a 360 camera to be able to do that. So when you look at this solution slide, you can see that we're getting a lot of information all at once. We get the front view of the test taker, we get the screen capture from the user computer, and we get the 360 view of the testing space. So all of this is fed in real time, and our live proctors are able to monitor it. So if anything doesn't match up, they easily have the ability to cut out and turn off the session. So having all this information is really what allows us to be so comprehensive and such a great solution.
Looks like we have a question relating to all this from Karen Cook on the live chat. I don't know if you see it there, Kranti. She's asking whether the testing is done at a designated site or at a client site. So maybe for some people who aren't familiar with Proctor360's model, maybe just walk everyone through the process that a test taker would go through in order to take an exam on Proctor360's platform.
Yeah, to answer that question directly, it kind of works well with what I was explaining earlier. Since we are such a comprehensive solution, we wanted it to be as remote as possible, or have the test taker give the test taker the ability to be remote. So they have the ability to take this at home or in their office. The actual process is simply they would go on our website, schedule their exam, and we would actually ship them the headset. And then once they receive the headset, they would receive it a day before their exam. On the day and time, they would put it on, set it up, go through the sign-in process, take their exam. Our live proctors would monitor it in real time, and then once they were done, they could our live proctors verify that the test has been completed, no cheating occurred, and then the user would just ship back the headset in the same box it came.
Yeah, so that's when people talk about Proctor360 as being the Netflix of remote testing, that's the idea that you can just like with Netflix, where you could watch anywhere from watch movies from anywhere, or from the even from the original Netflix, where you actually got movies in the mail, and when you're done with them, you just sent them back. It's the same idea, right?
Yeah, it's really similar to that.
That's right, Scott. In addition to that, we wanted to bring this education cost, which is mounting in this country and across the globe, so that these technologies such as Proctor 360 can enable remote education completely possible, except some of the medical and engineering studies. Most of the education can be certainly securely can be delivered remotely.
That's great. Yeah, it looks like we've got another question there on the live chat from Jay. He says, "What is your near-term goal? Is it 2 to 3 years? What's the focus area, and what would be the cost or the fee be for using the camera?"
The camera would be as a service, like we are trying to get into live, production as soon as possible. Maybe within 2 to 3 months, we wanted to have some customers are already lined up to use our product. Where we're trying to, we build the prototypes right now, and immediately we wanted to make some production and then make it available for some of the customers who are waiting. But our goal is to get this product as soon as possible. That's why we are reaching out to some of the investment community and also our customers, so that we can make this process as quick as possible.
Right, and in terms of getting to market, we're talking about a matter of months. He asked about the focus area, and I think maybe you could talk a little bit, Ganga, just about who do you see as being your initial customers? Are they training organizations? Are they online schools? What does the initial customers look like with the initial rollout of the product?
Some of the professional companies, such as medical examinations, and also some of the schools, where one of the opportunity or the extension to the current testing system is like existing. The webcam based systems are unable to deliver um, paper based exams as well. So we are trying to deliver paper based, computer based, and also hybrid exams. So our customer or the clientele is kind of wide, but we're already approached by a couple of companies where they wanted to utilize this system immediately for some of the hybrid exams. So we're working on that some of the medical pre-testing company were already going with them, and also a couple of other companies we have given the demos at the C level, and then they're happy and they're waiting for our product to be available.
That's great. So it's you've got companies just waiting in line for as soon as this product comes to market, and that's kind of what the Title III offering is all about. Our Start Engine campaign is raising the funding to be able to produce the headsets for these customers that are already waiting to use them. It looks like a couple other questions have been posted as well. Where are your live proctors, and how many proctors do you have, and who pays for them? So those are some just sort of questions, surrounding the business model.
Right now, our proctors are located in Richmond. As I speak, some of our proctors are already delivering the exams for some of the teachers, and also teaching exams, and also some other, the high cyber security exams from Richmond. Our plan is to extend our facility from Richmond to take care of our initial, the examination requirements, and delivering the exams as soon as possible.
So
And
just to
then
go off of that, we've been in the testing market for the past 10 years, and we operate testing centers. So we have proctors that are already trained and ready to call on. So there's never going to be a shortage of proctors. As for who pays for them, it's when you pay for your exam, you're paying for a portion of that is the proctoring fee.
Right, and then as you scale, when you start thinking about explosive growth, once Proctor360 penetrates the market, there's because it's a remote service, there's no reason why you couldn't have proctoring centers located in different geographic areas either, right?
Yeah, that's definitely the goal. That's a long-term goal, to not just be in America, but go global.
Yeah. And there's another question here from Betty, who's asking if test takers will be able to take the test on a 24/7 basis.
So once we are at scale, and then that's the goal, to eventually to fully allow the test taker to be able to take an exam at any time they want to. Even if it's in the middle of the night, we should have proctors on call that are able to take proctor an exam.
We already operate Monday to Sunday kind of scenario right now, and with the Proctor360, yes, we will be delivering 24/7 across the globe.
That's great. So you could really meet the needs of any test taker, regardless of what their work schedule was or what their normal hours are that they're actually available to take a test, which is kind of one of those things that becomes a challenge when you're taking classes online and you're able to schedule your learning around your life schedule and your work schedule. But then when it comes to taking these certified exams, you're stuck, with live testing centers having to work within whatever hours those facilities are open. So with Proctor360, that wouldn't be an issue.
In fact, Don can give some light on how the education is changing in 21st century. Don, would you like to talk?
Sure. Yeah, it's the 24/7 model has become a pretty critical model as we move forward in education. If you think about technology and you think about the speed to market in that industry and the way that careers are changing, education has to be delivered at a much quicker speed than it's ever been delivered before, because you get into a classroom, you have a traditional 4 or 6 year program. The change in technology from the time you enter that program to the time you exit is significant, and just that rapid pace of change requires that we're able to be a lot more nimble in the way that we deliver education and the way we deliver testing. And so that makes solutions like this critical, because we still have the requirement to provide that high level of exam security. So we're not we can't sacrifice that in order to be able to have that speed and efficiency. And so a device like this really helps us do that, because we can now get out of the classroom, get out of the testing center, and become a lot more localized, and yet still have a very high level of assurance that we've got the exam security necessary to make sure that exam and that program is valid.
That's right. Our goal is to deliver education and exam in a box if possible, as soon as possible, so that some of the costs can be reduced.
Yeah, and what Don was talking about was really interesting with the fact that just entering entering a higher education program, that the technology changes so much by the time you exit it that it's unreal. It's interesting, it's interesting stuff, and yet until Proctor360, came up with the idea of this 360-degree testing platform, the technology supporting remote testing really hadn't changed that much. It'd fallen way behind. I mean, would you agree, Don, that it's sort of fallen way behind the advances in the learning platforms?
Yeah, absolutely. If we go back, to the model that we developed 10 years ago, it was really a front-facing webcam, some type of screen sharing. And really, we started there because that's where technology was 10 years ago. But there's been significant advancements, over that period. And, really the need for remote proctoring technologies is to bring those technology advancements into the process. And so, it's not just additional cameras, but it's additional data and additional information that we're going to collect during the exam that will help us evaluate that exam's been delivered fairly, and there's been no issues. But yeah, the market's changed significant. Again, technology changes over time, and we have to be nimble enough to be able to advance with it.
Yeah, Kranti, are you? I don't know if you guys are seeing these questions as they're coming in here. We've got a few more asking where the equipment will be manufactured and talking about the software that will actually handle the exam process.
Yeah, I can talk about that. Yeah, the equipment itself is going to be manufactured in China. We've a lot of the headsets that we use to kind of model it after and inspired our design were manufactured there, and so it's clear to say that they have the skill set and the means to be able to produce our headsets effectively.
And they'll be working from your designs and your prototypes.
Yes, yes. All of which the designs are finished and they're ready to go into production. There may need to be a few modifications depending on the injection molding device type that they use, but that's fairly easy.
Great. Yeah, I mean, so it's really just a question of wrapping up this offering and then hitting the ground running.
Yeah.
Looks like Betty had another question there. Is the test vendor and structure the same as Pearson VUE? They're a heavy hitter in the industry, so it's probably good to address that.
We deliver Pearson VUE exams for the last 10 years, and we understand how they are being delivered. And Pearson VUE is also doing some online testing nowadays, but I think Proctor360 goes to next level. And in fact, the existing partnership with GIT services goes with the Pearson, Prometric, and some of the major companies. So we understand how the testing is taking place now, and we also know how some of the partners are really working with Pearson VUE and delivering the exam. So it should not be that much problematic for us to really get from brick and mortar environment to online proctoring service.
Looks like Jay had a couple of other questions here. We've been sort of talking about what the goal for the funding round is, that it is primarily to support the launch of the product. It's been designed and it's ready to go into production. But then his next question is, what is the valuation? Do we want to get into what those details are? It's all of that, of course, is available on the Start Engine campaign page. But do you want to talk for a little bit about the offering details and valuation stuff, Ganga?
I think you're right, Scott. Everything is available online. For right now, we have kind of made a conservative estimation of small revenue by delivering about 6,000 exams per month, which is very very conservative estimate. But some of the experts say that we can go up to 30, 35 millions within 4 to 5 years. That's a goal. But you're right, the information is available for the seed funding on Start Engine website, and if they have any specific questions related to investments and other things, they can certainly reach us at gbathula at proctor360.com.
Yeah, and it's important to point out because the Start Engine campaign, this offering that we currently have active for investors now, is SEC regulated. So there are some rules about how we publish the details. And when it comes to Title III regulation crowdfunding offerings, one of the rules is that all of the offering details must exist in one place on one site, that's hosted by a third-party platform, and so in our case, that's Start Engine. So we don't want to brush off that answer, but but all of those details can be found at startengine.com/Proctor360, and there's a link to that in the description for this live stream video as well. Looks like another question Betty had is whether or not this could be marketed to major universities. I bet you could probably talk a little bit about that, Don.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In major universities, especially in programs that have programmatic accreditation, like the nursing programs, where they're preparing a lot of the students to pass certifications, there's a lot of focus on content and outcomes, and so this kind of device will help them significantly in helping the candidates. Not just with the security associated with testing, but to help prepare them for what they're going to see in their career, because they'll be taking multiple tests over the course of their career. They'll be taking initial certification, 3 certification. So, it has value for them both in the near term and the long term. And so then there are a lot of very prestigious nursing organizations in the country that we're already working with that I think will be prime candidates for this product.
And just out of curiosity, for my own curiosity, who is the typical decision maker at a university program when it comes to testing platforms and things like Proctor360?
So generally, it's 2 different areas. For the programmatic, universities that have programmatic accreditation, you're really going to get in with the department chair, the department director. They may have their own technology department associated with that. So many of the colleges and universities in the U.S. use a very decentralized model where individual schools and individual departments get to make a number of decisions about what they do. You do have in most schools a centralized IT department that will support a number of different technologies, and so we do work with them as well. But for those types of programs, they know what their specific needs are, and the general education department probably doesn't have the similar needs. So you're going to work with those, they're going to make that decision. But some of those programs are very, very large. And the nice thing is they're very, very stable. So if you take a look at a particular nursing program, their dropout rates are typically much lower than other programs because of just the competitive nature of trying to get into the program and the type of student that they have. So we're able to then get in there, give them the technology and the tools, and we'll see continuity through the entire program, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's amazing. And actually, I have a friend who's in a nursing program right now, and she can attest to it being extremely demanding.
Yeah.
So it looked like we've... I hope we had several questions come in there at once, and we appreciate having so many questions. I hope I didn't miss any. I'm just scrolling back through here. And if it looks like I missed one, please post again, guys. But I did want to talk, since we got on the subject of the Start Engine campaign and our Title III offering. I did think we should take a minute and maybe just talk a little bit about how this works, because up until 2016, Title III offerings were not around, and if you were not an accredited investor, which means that if you were not worth $1 million or making $200,000 a year or more, you couldn't invest in a private company, not for stock. You couldn't buy shares in a private company and make investments that way. So if you can imagine a company like Facebook or Uber, one of these companies that's hit big, even if you'd recognize the technology as being valuable to the market, even if you'd seen the potential for it to grow explosively in terms of value. If you weren't an accredited investor, it wouldn't have been an option. It also would have meant putting in hundreds of thousands of dollars in investment. You couldn't be putting in just a few $100s at those startup stages. But wouldn't you have liked to have been one of those guys that could have invested in Facebook before it went public? Well, now with Title III regulation crowdfunding, you can. And this is something that is actually fairly new. Number one, in order to protect non-accredited investors, it is SEC regulated, which means that it's not a fly-by-night deal. You have to register your company with the Securities and Exchange Commission, and all of the offering details are sort of written in stone and hosted on a third-party platform where everything is in one place. You can talk about your offering, and you can talk about the product or your business model, and you can encourage people to invest in your company. But when it comes to the actual offering details, they want all of that information in one place so that the little guy has the opportunity to see everything. And I actually think that's something that I wish the SEC would do across the board, because it protects everyone. It's not uncommon in the startup world for people to be hawking and offerings with different details to different investors, and you really don't know whether or not your information is the same as what another investor heard. Thankfully, with the Title III offerings, that's not the case. They are SEC regulated. And if you guys have any questions specifically about Title III regulation crowdfunding rules, you definitely can go to the SEC website and read more about those things. But as it relates to Proctor360, this is a company that, just like Facebook, just like those tech startups that saw explosive growth, this is a startup that's using new technology and an innovative way for an enormous industry. Computer-based testing is a $42 billion industry. Right now, remote testing is projected to capture $10 billion of that market over the next 5 years, and the research organizations within this industry are calling Proctor360 a potential game changer, that they could upend all that. Well, as a non-accredited investor, you actually can invest, and the minimum investment is much lower than it would have been if you wanted to be someone who invested in a company like Facebook or Google when they were at a startup stage. And the platform where our offering is hosted is at startengine.com/Proctor360. You can read everything about the offering details there, the valuation, the current strategy for going to market and for growth, and you can actually post comments on the page with any questions you have about the offering, and so when we answer them, they're there for everyone to see the same answers. We encourage anyone who's interested to definitely check that out. Our offering is only open for a limited time, and so we do encourage you, if you're interested in investing, to make your decision soon, because this is not the kind of thing where you can invest at any given moment in a company that you're interested in. They have to have an offering active. We only have a maximum goal that Proctor360 is even seeking for investment right now. And so when the offering period is up or the maximum amount is hit, we won't be accepting any more investors for a while. Looks like we've got another question there, Kranti. It says, could this same technology be used for remote class instruction also?
Yeah, we were looking at different industries when we designed it. We designed it specifically for testing and online proctoring, but we did notice that it could be used in different industries, such as the interview process. When you're doing remote interviews, you got to make sure that the same person you're interviewing is the same person walking in the door. We looked at gaming, and then we also saw that it could do really well in that industry also. But as for remote class instruction, we didn't really think about that, but I'm glad you brought it up because we can explore that option more. It would be really interesting for a student to log in and be in a VR environment and be able to see around the classroom just like it was, just like they were there.
That makes me think about something that actually came to mind a while back, just in terms of testing in live testing centers. I sort of see the Proctor360 headset as an advantage for people who are hearing impaired as well, because I can imagine that if you're hearing impaired, if you don't have an on-staff translator to translate sign language for you, and you have to you've taken online classes because it's easier maybe, or because it's convenient, like it would be for anyone. And then you go, and then you have to go to a live testing center and interact with proctors who may not speak sign language, may not be able to answer your questions completely, or that you may have difficulty communicating with them. It seems like the Proctor360 platform would be way better for someone who who's hearing impaired, who it would be just that much simpler if they could chat with the proctor on the live chat window and just take the the exam from the comfort and convenience of their own space.
Yeah, I think it really would be beneficial. And you pointed out one case like that, but there are multiple problems that you run into when you go to a testing center that could be simplified and could be streamlined if you used a remote system.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, not even about a question of sign language, but even the language that the proctor speaks versus the language the student speaks.
Yeah. I mean, that's the nice thing about having such a group of proctors. Usually there's one that could be able to take it on and answer a question.
Sure, and now obviously as you scale, you can make that option more and more available. In other words, if someone specifically needs a proctor that speaks Spanish or something like that.
Yeah.
In addition to that, Scott, surveillance is the key part of exam delivery in today's world. As you know, the operations FBA Varsity Blues recently came onto surface. The reason I was thinking is there was no video footage. When we deliver the exam from any brick and mortar testing center, if somebody asks, who, when, where they came, we can able to, cut and send that video footage of the candidate who has taken the exam. And also we get secret shoppers, as if they are, like a test taker from so and so company, but they are not. They are trying to test the proctors and then trying to verify the environment, whether it is really securely delivered or not. So what I'm trying to say is, the key part for exam delivery is authentication with the video, that we wanted to give a digital badge along with the exam saying that so and so Scott has taken maybe PMP exam or CompTIA exam or cybersecurity exam. So along with your exam results, the video footage for Scott, picture, the Scott, the passport or the driver's license will be captured and kept securely, so that that information down the line, even after 3 months or 6 months, somebody wanted to verify, they can
Right.
clearly verify and then get the assurance that so and so person has taken the exam and this is legit and valid, and then there is no scams like Varsity Blues, the way FBA conducted those kind of scenarios.
Right, and that actually made it very clear that even live testing centers are vulnerable to forms of cheating when they can simply bribe a proctor or manipulate the system so that they get more time, or have someone else actually take the exam for them. So live testing centers are vulnerable to cheating patterns or behaviors as well, and it seems like the only way to go from here is to have a product like Proctor360's, where you are capturing a 100% 360-degree view of the room and everything that the test taker does on their screen, and then have that identity match to make sure that it was the person who's supposed to be taking the exam, and then having it saved for auditing later. You're just not leaving anything open anymore for for cheating to take place.
That's right. In addition to that, we're also trying to capture the GPS, the position of the candidate where he's taking the exam. Even there are some exams internationally delivered. We wanted to make sure that the candidate who is taking the exam, they have got valid, the driver's license or the passport, and also where this exam is being taken, along with all other, relevant information we are going to capture securely. So that's the idea of digital badging of the exam.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good point, because if the person is supposedly taking the exam from Oklahoma and their GPS location shows that they're somewhere in another country, then then you maybe have to check that person's identity twice to make sure it's the right person.
That's true.
I don't know if we see any other questions coming in there. This has been a really good session with a lot of excellent questions. Have you guys got anything else you'd like to touch on before we wrap up today?
Yeah, if you get questions later on, feel free to go to the Start Engine page. You can comment below, and then we'll be able to answer questions directly there.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, with that, I think then we can wrap it up. This was excellent. We really appreciate everyone connecting today and coming up with some very interesting questions. Again, go to startengine.com/Proctor360. There's not much time left to make your investment. And investment is more than just investor dollars. It's supporting a startup that you believe in, that you see the potential for huge growth in. And with Proctor360, you've got an excellent bet on your hands. So we do hope that you'll take a look at the Start Engine campaign page and make a decision to join us as an investor. Thanks very much, guys, and we'll see you again with our next live webinar.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.